Clock says 4 o'clock. Meeting will come to order.
It's 4:30.
4:30.
Been here a while, Dave. We understand.
I've been on vacation. Yeah, okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Bailey.
Here.
Commissioner Bunting.
Here.
Commissioner Gay.
Here.
Commissioner Sapsy.
Here.
Commissioner Owens.
George, can we get you to pray for us?
We all bow your heads, please. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the day that you've given to us. And we ask continued prayers for our servicemen and women overseas and at home. We also ask prayers for our first responders, Father. Tonight, Father, we come to deliberate and do things that would be best for the folks of Gratiot County. We just ask that we be Christ-like as doing it. In His name we pray, amen.
And now will you join us for the pledge?
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We did have one addition to the agenda. Yo and yo, and we put that number one.
We had two additions.
The Conservation District, when did that get in?
It added that on Monday mornings.
It's in the,
Agenda out online.
it's in the agenda.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
And we did add a closed session on Monday as well for legal.
And you didn't cancel that.
So we have two closed sessions.
Just one today.
No, two.
Two?
Yes. Union negotiations and legal.
Oh, I thought we said the union.
Do you wanna-
You did mention.
Steve, do you want a new agenda?
Yeah.
Would you get me one too?
The only one that isn't on is yo and yo to add them as number one.
Well, you better give me one.
You need one too?
Well, I don't want to,
probably already gave you.
I don't want to be left out.
It was the Easter weekend, Good Friday kind of messed everybody up.
Thank you.
Wonderful day. Actually had a full meeting, first time since. Wonderful.
Good week, you know.
That's fantastic.
This is the same guy. Wayne Buck.
Full meetings.
Brief public comment.
We need a motion to approve.
The agenda with, the way it's presented.
Support.
But George,
Afternoon,
hold just a second here.
Robert Baxter.
Hold
Town-
on.
her just a second, Bob. We got a motion to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now you can go.
Okay. I've been before the commission before with this subject, so it's nothing new. And it is the agreement that the township had with the county on blight enforcement. As of March 31st, that agreement expired. And the township had no communication with the county or the blight enforcement officer. The last blight enforcement log that I received from the enforcement officer was on 12/6/2024. And the last two blight complaints that we sent to the county, I've had no communication about and no enforcement agenda communication at all. So at this point, what I'm here for is to recommend to the commissioners that they look into refunding the township money that was paid to the county enforcement that was never done. So that's what I'm asking the commissioners to look into refunding the township the money we paid the county. Thank you.
Bob, if you stick around, believe this man two down from me has something to say about blight tonight, so. Stand by to stand by.
Okay, consideration of the consent calendar.
For the consent calendar is presented.
Moved by George, supported by Steve to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Down to administrators report.
You should have a stack of papers as usual for the first meeting of the month in front of you. First, the issue I wanted to get into, we were asked by our new medical examiner provider for a letter of support for a grant from the state to help fund a postmortem CT scanner that would be stationed in Montcalm County. Montcalm County is already in the process of putting the facility together where this would be housed. MMMEG actually has one of these located up in Grayling already. It's already in use in their northern region. They now have 18 counties, so about the northern 9 or 10 counties have already been able to access this. The CT scanner allows them to, in many cases, avoid having to actually do an autopsy because they're able to scan and see what they need to see with the deceased and not have to go through the whole process and waiting on autopsies. Not only saving funds, but it gives them, they believe, even more accurate results than they might otherwise have had. So what they've asked the county to do is just offer a letter of support addressed to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to help hopefully secure some additional funds so we get one of those scanners down in this area. The letter that I've drafted is in front of you. And if you would be so kind to pass a motion, we can have the chair sign that tonight and get this underway.
I so moved that we Gratiot County Board of Commissioners sent the letter of approval or support, not approval, but support for the Michigan Medical Examiner Group to apply to get some funding to help with the CT scanner.
I'll second it.
Moved by Steve, supported by Jan, to offer a letter of support for a postmortem CT for the Michigan Medical Examiner Group. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
If we'll get that signed tonight, and I'll get that to them in the morning, and hopefully that whole process will move right along. Just a quick update, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the agenda tonight. We have all concerned have asked us to expedite the contract with the new provider. And so I'm actually very impressed that MMMEG was able to pull everything together as quickly as they have. They're ready to go, but we'll talk more about that when that comes up on the agenda. But I felt, though, a very positive sign. Next up, let's talk about blight. I've had an opportunity to not only meet with the staff, but to do a little bit of research on the situation that we have with the townships. And first, I just want to apologize to the township if you've not received any kind of communication in response to anything that you've requested. I'll see that stops. You need to at least get a reply, even if they have nothing more to report. At least have them contact you. So I'll follow up on that. Just to set the stage, the framework is outstanding for what was intended. And that is that we would have all of our communities working together, probably all from the same ordinance. It looks like everybody had the same ordinance in place. And then it would all be coordinated out of the county through contract. It's an excellent structure that should work. The first barrier, though, I noticed right away is that, frankly, and I'm sure you're not going to be surprised to hear this, and you don't want to hear it, there are not enough resources committed to do the job. Simple as that. I've run into some structural issues internally here that we need to talk about. But first and foremost, I know the townships were asked to contribute and in response would have 2 enforcement actions per year for that. That's very problematic. If there's an ordinance that's been passed that says this is what our position on blight is, we cannot say we're going to enforce it twice and then we're done. Can't do that. First thing that's going to happen is that you're going to be accused of disparate treatment and you're going to lose the argument because it is. Because we've reached our limit. We're not going to enforce this on anybody else. Why me? Why are you picking on me? So that's something that we'll need to address. And I don't think that's going to be a very difficult thing to address. Is when complaints come in, we respond to the complaints. It doesn't matter if it's 2 or if it's 20, we have to respond to the complaints. So that gets us to the structure internally. I don't believe we have enough resources committed to that, but another problem occurred, at least what's occurred to me as I was looking at this. So if you look at the flow chart that's in front of you, it should have been the second page on the materials that I have. If you look at the current structure, see that we have our building inspector who is in charge of all community development, which includes planning and zoning, and it also includes our maintenance office. And here's the issue. We are operating under state law that says our building inspections department, the funds that it brings in can only be used for building inspections work, and that's it. It can't be used for zoning. It can't be used for soil erosion control. It can't be used for zoning. It can't be used for blight. It must be used for building inspection. So problem one, we have a structure right now that's built that includes not only our building inspector, but everybody involved with any kind of a permit, whether it's a zoning permit, soil erosion, blight, whatever it might be. And also the individual that's currently staffing our planning commission is part of that fund. We need to break that up. And that's, from an administrative standpoint, not a hard thing to do. We'll just provide you with the structure. I'll bring that to you. We'll get that fixed. What it doesn't fix is what we do on the ground in terms of personnel. So on that first flow chart, I've got all the positions named, and I know that you know the individuals here. So for this one time only, I put the employee's name on that sheet too, so you can relate to who it is. And with our building inspection department, we have one person, our building inspector, who's dedicated to that function. Under our planning and zoning area, we have a person titled our deputy permits officer, who's also doing all of the agenda work and the minutes and everything else for the planning commission. We have a part-time code enforcement official. I'll say we've got listed here as zoning and soil erosion administrator because that's the official title on our roster, but he's doing all of the both of those, and I think filling in even on some work with the building inspector from time to time. This position is very unique in that it has an independent contractor agreement tied to it, but we're paying the individual as though he were on the payroll. That's to say, we're issuing a W-2 for an individual who really should be getting a 1099. But frankly, when you apply the test as to whether or not the individual is an employee, he's really an employee of the county. But it's a good thing that we're paying that payroll tax and everything, but it's a convoluted situation that does need to be cleaned up, and that's a part-time position. We also have a part-time clerical person as a co-op student working in that office right now. Also tied under community development is our maintenance department, so our buildings and grounds. We have our building and ground supervisor, maintenance worker, and 2 custodians who are all part of this package. So you can see we've got some things to untangle. But fear not, flip the page over. Looking at the structure the way it probably should be set up, and this is something we could easily do by the next meeting, simply restructure so that you have your building inspection department independent of the other 2 general fund activities. So we would have our building inspection department, and under the general fund now, we would have, just for generic terms right now, planning department. That would include, our planner, our code enforcement people, and I say code enforcement, that's zoning, blight, soil erosion, everything that's not building related. And we could then formally assign that clerical position that what we have sitting there right now as a position in this department. Also, subgrouped under here would be the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals. Now, why would we do that? Well, we don't have to. We could throw all that into the Activity 701. My experience, though, is that boards in particular, it's easier to understand what's a staff function in the planning department and distinguish that from the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals. They're broken out. There's no question which one's which, and you can see that. Either way works. We can talk about which way you'd prefer to go. We already have a department set up for maintenance. The only thing that the building inspection fund was contributing to maintenance was simply the oversight of the department itself. The individual approving the timesheets, for instance, is the building inspector. So very little commingling of the dollars there. That could easily be a standalone department without any other activity or any other action of the board. It's already set up that way. It's just a matter of reassigning one individual to be the director of that department. And frankly, probably already functioning in that capacity anyway. So not a whole lot of day-to-day change in that function itself. So now let's get to what on the planning department and to talk about blight. The individual that we have, well, we've got two people right now who are doing the code enforcement work. And that's all well and good, but the part-time person that's doing this is not, well, I believe it's 20 hours a week that's dedicated to this. I'm going to suggest very strongly to you, if you want to do this blight activity, and I do recommend that we do this, that code enforcement official be made a full-time position to be able to take on the additional work that the blight enforcement is going to bring. We've also got soil erosion control that's relatively new to the department as well. And to have a notice from the state saying they want us to dedicate additional FTE hours to that enforcement component as well. So I think this will satisfy the state even in that regard. So we would have two people who can actually do this enforcement work out there. And I think then we could at least have a fighting chance of keeping up with the workload that this brings. And again, we've got to reconsider that 2 cases per township rule because that's just not going to work. It's going to apply 100% of the time, or it's going to apply 0% of the time. We're either all in or we're all out. And in this case, coordinating with the townships, looks like, the all-in approach, certainly would be the one preferred. So if we're going to do that, let's fund it and get it done. The other concern is that clerical position that right now is a co-op student. I can tell you right now that departments have already, come to depend on that. And that's the person that's answering the phone and answering the questions that come in, particularly when the people are out in the field doing some of this code enforcement work. That's one that we would want to consider making a permanent position in the department, no longer a co-op student, but a permanent position. Whether that should be a full-time or a part-time is debatable, and we can have that debate, but at least recognizing that the need is there and that we can then move forward with the enforcements that we need to do. On the building inspection side, this would leave literally a department with one person, which is not necessarily an unusual thing for that particular function. But I think we need to keep an open mind in that in the future, and perhaps even the near future, there may be need to get at least a part-time equivalent electrical and mechanical inspector. That's something that we need to think about. These positions tend to pay for themselves in terms of the permit monies that come through. So that won't be a new money that the county is going to have to foot to do that function. But let's leave the option open in the future so that we can make sure we're not falling behind on that work as well. So to sum up, we need to establish this new structure. I would strongly suggest that the board very seriously consider making that part-time code enforcement job a full-time position to keep up with the workload. This is something I would typically suggest that we wait and deal with at budget time. I don't think we can wait. Okay, I can have the proposal ready for you at this table in 2 weeks, and we could move forward. It is going to require committing additional funds to make the one position full-time. And then we need to work, and we'll do this through human resources and through finance to make sure that we get our budgets lined up, but also deal with the contract, the independent contractor situation that we have and make that correct so that we're now compliant with the Fair Labor Standards Act and we're doing everything the way we're supposed to do it. So that's my nickel tour. I appreciate the patience of the townships as we work through this. That's got to be cleaned up, but I do think that the solution isn't going to be that difficult. And as I said, I can have the proposal on the table in the form of a resolution in 2 weeks if you want to move that quickly. It's understandable if you wanted to wait until the budget process ran its course, but you're going to be through the spring and the summer and partway into fall. And I'm not sure that kind of delay is in anybody's best interest.
My only concern is I want to be sure that Fulton's still interested, Elba's still interested, North Shade's still interested. I know you have some townships that are interested.
I'm convinced that if we move ahead with this program, and I agree with you, everybody that paid and didn't get, they get their money back, period. That's the only way to start. You gotta start over again.
It's either that or we don't pay, they don't pay for 2026.
No, I believe the easiest thing to do is to make them whole. And then we can worry about
We can do that, but the government doesn't typically give you money back.
But if there wasn't any services, I don't think we'll have a problem. But I agree with you.
They haven't gotten one update since March of last year.
So, but I think we've got some progress here. I'm pleased with what I've heard. And I don't believe in my mind that we can wait. I think by next meeting, you'll have a proposal together with wages and that type of thing. We'll be able to discuss that, but we can't wait. Our people in our townships are wanting to get this done. And the springtime is coming and it's even going to be more prevalent with the snow and the melting and the warm weather, and we're going to get the odors and the animals and everything else that goes along with it. So I think the sooner, in my opinion, the sooner we can do it, the better.
I agree with that. Was that the end of your report, Tim?
Oh, no. A lot of things that happened. Of course, we had the extra week in here, so. I will have that here at this table in 2 weeks, so just please stay tuned and, we'll get this worked out. We had an RFP that was issued for a time and attendance system, the automated system. We had the due date was April 1st. We got 9 proposals. Again, very impressed, and I'm glad to see that we're getting that kind of interest. Of those 9, we had a range in price of $15,395 to $383,000. So you can see there's quite a range. While the 383 was definitely an outlier, of the proposals, 4 of them came in between the 15,395 and 23,356. And I suspect that we're going to end up falling in that range somewhere. One proposal came in at 47,274, but it was a 2-year quote. So got a little bit of work there yet to dissect and figure out, compare apples to apples. But again, next meeting, I plan to come to you with a recommendation on moving forward. 2 of the firms that proposed, I know already talked directly with BSNA for the transition that we need between the programs. They've already got it down. So 2 of them I know automatically are good. Now we've got to get into the pricing to make sure it includes everything that we want. The other proposals, probably, that was one of the criteria of the RFP was that you had to integrate with BSNA. So we'll check that out though to make sure it's occurring. So that's I'm very anxious to get that started. We keep running into hiccups with payroll that I know this will correct. A lot of it having to do with how we pay overtime. A lot of it having to do with accruals of time off and so on. This will fix those problems. Just a matter now of figuring out which one of these proposals is in our best interest. Next item, the Indigent Defense MIDC grant that we received. That department has asked to move into space across the street in the vacant building we have. This is a situation where the state would actually pay us rent to have that building, and we've looked at it. We've looked at the cost allocation and everything. We're out $1,000 a month seemed appropriate. They were willing to pay that. So that's a move that likely you'll see happen here probably sooner rather than later. They've actually got to hire another attorney to
They need their building or just portion?
for the space that's there. They're going to need the whole thing. And the building is already used, occupied with probation and parole. I think it is with the state. So it's already kind of partitioned up that way. But that is going to free up some space in this building too, obviously, when they move. But that's one that really is needed. I do need to point out agenda item J6 tonight. There aren't any questions on the MIDC. J6 is a case manager position for the treatment court that's fully funded through the state. But the resolution itself on the second page misstates where the budget amendment will have to occur. That will be the treatment court fund and not the general fund. So just be aware of that when we get to it. Otherwise, the rest of the resolution will work fine. I do have a set of policies in front of you, so the same, as we've been doing first meeting every month. I think there's about 6 of them in there. First one that you'll want to look at is the Freedom of Information Act policy. It is consistent with what our statutory obligations have us doing. Our current policy is not. So this is almost a complete rewrite of what we had, but it is compliant now with what we have to do under statute. Just to run you through the others, these, spend the amount of time you want on them. The next one is the enhanced access to public records policy. It's not formatted in a format, but I've read through the policy. It is consistent with that statute. I'd like to bring these together because it is information that people could ask for. But there is a separate policy dealing with how that's charged and processing and what have you. This policy is consistent with the statute. This needs to be reformatted. Interesting one here on the equalization data processing. This is a policy that's been on the books for probably a couple of decades. Talking to Keegan, a lot of language that no longer applies. We might very well be coming to you with a recommendation that this policy simply be repealed and not replaced, because statutes cover what we have to do. We can be restating it here, but we're just making it more complicated than maybe it needs to be by restating a statute that might change and then we don't catch it. So yeah, but we're still talking about it, but a good portion of the policy itself is obsolete. The next one we'll be looking at is the voicemail and email policy. This is one that I thought initially might be a candidate for repeal, but looking at it, it talks about these emails and voicemails actually being public records, and that puts them into a different category. So I'll be taking a closer look at that. It's probably going to be a little bit shorter than what this states, but I think it's a good reminder to anybody using county email account or county voicemail. Those are public documents. They're subject to retention criteria that we have to meet with all of our public documents. The next one has gotten the most attention from department heads already. Is the budget procedures policy. It primarily restates the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act, but talks a little bit more specifically about the budget calendar and the things that we want to do internally. It's very timely because we're going to start this process up anyway. But what department heads immediately noticed, and I know they're reading, is that this policy says that our budget year will follow the calendar year, which of course it does not. But that gives you an idea of how long this policy has been in place. So it needs a little bit more scrutiny. And I really love getting that kind of feedback from departments. They're the ones on the ground having to deal with it. They're already taking it seriously. That's a great sign. So that one we'll bring with those revisions. The next one is the policy that is called a procedure for declaration of emergency expenditures. We dealt with this in the purchasing procedures policy a couple of months ago, one of the first policies that we dealt with. This is one I'm going to put a resolution together to simply repeal. We don't need to have a separate policy that deals with this. I think there was some confusion when this was developed in terms of emergency expenditures and whether or not there needed to be a separate policy when it came to something like a natural disaster. This one has a little bit of that flavor to it. And no, the short answer is we do not have to have a separate policy to deal with that. And if we're dealing with a natural disaster, you're probably going to be convened in a special meeting anyway for dealing with those things. So I'm not even sure that we would have to do a whole lot with this outside of what we've already adopted.
The thing I'm, but a date on this, that was right after the world shut down for COVID. So I think it should have probably been repealed when we came out of it, just didn't. So I think that's why it was put in place.
And the last one is a budget transfers policy, and this will deal with limits or transfers for anything other than the personnel expenditures that are approved in various department budgets. Sets limits on it, formalizes a procedure that we don't have right now. And it's going to be important if we're going to do this right with the county and give our budget administrators the opportunity to actually administer their budgets. We need something like this in place. It sets up the parameters for transfers between lines, not between funds, but between lines within a specific department. You're allowing the departments the latitude as the year progresses to be able to move funds not additional dollars, but move funds that have already been allocated to other activities. So if there's a contract that they'd like to do and they have additional office supply monies available, they can make that move without having to necessarily worry about coming here and getting, various approvals. You've already approved their budget, so you're recognizing that. That's what that one will do. Meeting with department heads tomorrow to talk about this a little bit. We'll go through our regular 2-week vetting process. Next meeting, we'll have these proposals in front of you for their consideration as well. One final thing, then I'll be done. I would very much like to have a work session with this board, just to go over some of the procedures, not only here, at board meetings, but to talk about the budget, to get your ideas of where your priorities are, and talk a little bit about how this process unfolds over the next several months. There are various steps to it, various stages. You will get a recommended budget from me in, I believe it's June. I'll have to take a look at that calendar again. It's on the agenda tonight. But you need to know what's going into that process so that you know what's already been vetted and maybe focus on areas that maybe are missed, but also help us in terms of setting some priorities for the coming year. And you talk about things like capital improvements and what have you. Get that whole process underway. Not going to put you on the spot tonight or a date, but if we could have an extra meeting in April sometime just for that purpose, be a work session, can be less formal, clearly, but just to talk about these things, I would certainly appreciate it. And if you'd entertain that, we can have somebody give you all a call and find availability and get that in motion.
May I make a suggestion? Maybe all of us can come up with 3 different dates. Or is time going to be an issue too? Does it need to be during the day?
That's totally up to you. I'm generally available when you are.
Yeah, anyway, then we can get together and see how many are closest to doing the same day. I'm pretty open.
We can give you a call, email, what have you, and kind of coordinate that and see what you've got. Mr. Chairman, relinquish the floor.
Okay. I would say finally, but that's just not appropriate.
No, but understood.
Steve?
Let's see, seems like so long ago that we had a meeting. On the 18th, the night after our last meeting, at a Parks and Recreation meeting. A lot of discussion, and they will be actually meeting later this week with one of the contractors and the people who do the physical work to install one of the splash pads at a proposed location in Elma. So they're actually looking at meeting with these people there so they can get kind of a better idea of whether it's feasible there and what cost would be. So that took up quite a bit of the discussion there. Other than that, the parks were getting cleaned up and getting ready to, officially get opened. And there's some talk about one of the bridges that goes across that leads to the disc golf area, starting to age quite a lot. And they're looking at some different feasibilities of whether or not you can afford to replace the bridge or if the bridge should just go away. So that, they're getting some different ideas of how much it would cost, but it's very expensive to build a bridge, even something that doesn't look that substantial due to all the engineering and what have you that's into it. So then the next night, the 19th, I was at Washington Township. Washington Township is going through a lot of their budgetary issues that they're dealing with, talking about their roads and what roads they were gonna gravel and chip seal and that sort of thing. They had conversation there also that they've been working with Fulton Township on the sewer system in Pompeii, and they're doing a feasibility study or something right now on whether or not they're going to need to do some rate changing or something, because right now what they're taking in is not taking care of what needs to be done out there.
So we have a rate for that.
Yeah, so that was discussed. Next day in the morning, I had a conservation district meeting. They're gonna stick with the same day of the week, same time, but we're gonna again start meeting in Ithaca. So I think that's great because Ithaca's the county seat and it makes it nice driving distance for everybody instead of going to the other end of the county. The following Monday, the 23rd, I was over at Bob's Township, Fulton Township. Fulton now has a new treasurer that's kind of their old treasurer because Melissa Zemla had been elected and then due to a family emergency had to step away from it. They had someone else step in and now that person, due to some family issues, has stepped away and now Melissa stepped back in. So it's kind of unique when you look at their board. They've got 3 individuals that all start, their first name starts with M, and then you got like an MO and an W and an MZ. So it's kind of the Bob's the outlier up there. And then on that following, or that next Wednesday, George and I had health department. This month was right here in Gratiot County. Going over budgetary things. When I walked into the meeting, and then we ended up approving, they're gonna put some money towards the retirement liability, which was that was kind of the biggest thing really that we talked about. So
That's been one of my things since I got there, that we gotta keep that up there. And that'll be about 80%. So that's a good position to be in.
there's an update on what's going on now at the Capitol on the sewer system. There's been yet another proposal on what to do with come up with some statewide sewer stuff. It hasn't moved anywhere. It's just another swing at it, but I don't know if it'll ever go anywhere at all in this session.
Let's hope not.
Yeah. And then the doctor gave a nice report on the status of not the flu, the same, what was it?
A long time ago, man.
I know, I'm trying to think. She did a really good job of putting it together. I think it was vaccination rates. That's what it was. We talked about vaccination rates because we've had the measles outbreaks and that sort of.
Well, Gratiot County has historically been very low.
Yep. So, well, actually, all 3 of the county, well,
No, we're
we're the lowest, but then you got Gratiot's, Montcalm, and then Clinton's always the highest of those.
it's always the highest.
That's what I did for the last month, half a month, I guess.
Dan?
Okay, I had a meeting in Alma City Hall. And I've also had a meeting at MSU Extension, and I've been going to the Conservation District meetings, which take place the end of the month, each month. And that's ongoing process there. They will be coming in to talk to us. At one time, we sponsored them. We gave them, I think it was $30,000 or $40,000 a year. They took that and wrote grants for it, and they hire a lot of the college kids that come in and work there. And actually, we went to a dinner. In fact, several of us were at the dinner at the RESD a couple months ago. And they had these kids get up and talk about what they did. And I was really impressed. This one girl said, I walk at least 16 miles every day to walk through the fields. They take samples, and we talked about different things that are in the ground now, like there's some kind of a bug or a worm or something, and they're trying to figure out how to get rid of that. And so it was real interesting. I found it interesting in the fact that I don't think I could walk 16 miles every day in a field. That would be a lot of work, but it's nice to see college kids or young kids get so involved in our farms and the all that goes with it, the crops and the ground itself and trees. They talked about trees, just different things that we have, new things that have come into our country. And of course, they have to figure a way to how to stop it so it doesn't eat our plants or trees or whatever. So that was interesting. I think I talked about that too right after I'd gone to that. But anyway, they will be coming in and talking about some things from Conservation District. I've also went last week, and I believe myself and our administrator was there. I was able to see the ceremony on the tower that they put up. Want to thank the community on voting a millage to have that done. That was one of the most important things that we could have done in our county and in the state of Michigan. And was able, they had a guy there that had a walkie-talkie and he called all over the state of Michigan. And it just as a test, make sure that that they could hear each other. Everything came up really good except number 6. We had to go that a couple of times, but they got busy apparently and couldn't take the call right at that moment. But anyway, if there's any kind of emergency or anything in the state of Michigan now, all of us can talk any place in the state of Michigan. I shouldn't say us, it's state police, city police, the fire department, the FBI, ambulance can all be on this one tower where they have good communication to be able to relate back and forth. And then they were talking about eventually probably like our phone companies, AT&T and Verizon, Spectrum, if they want to put an antenna up there, they can put it up there, but not all the way to the top. And they were saying it was 310 feet tall. It's really, really tall. If you go out to, actually, it's out there where Yo lives, or Ally. Is that Lakeside Drive? Lakeside Drive, you just go follow it way back, goes back into like some woods. And that's where the tower is, and you can see it from 127, but it's very, very impressive. And I thought one of the best things, or the most impressive thing, was Ally took her son, and he said that this is something he's really interested in. So they allowed him to put the gear on and go up and do a couple of steps up into the tower, that is really nice. That's a young person that has a real interest in this, and I'm only sorry that we were not able to invite some of the 12th graders and seniors from some of the schools to come out and be a witness of what had just happened in our county. But anyway, that was one of the best things I've done this year so far. It was fun to be there and fun to see so many different people there too. The only other thing I've got coming up this week is MMR, our meeting this Thursday, so I'll report on that. I'll bring in a report on that. I think that's about all. I've been pretty busy, just moving around the county.
Well, you, George,
23rd, I attended Breckenridge Village meeting. General discussion about many things. They have fully occupied their fire barn now, so that's all up and running between Breckenridge and Wheeler. That's all going. That's all good. They've begun their will be beginning their new fiscal year shortly. And, general discussion. On the 24th, I went out to the airport to the EAA meeting, their monthly meeting. And they discussed many things about the airport and about EAA. And I go there just to attend and see what's going on, be representative. And then, of course, on the 25th, Steve and I went to the Board of Health meeting. And then on the 26th, we were invited by Slipper. People going, what is Slipper? Slipper is a transportation authority between St. Louis, Ithaca, and Pine River. Put all those together, and what do you get? Slipper. They're an authority that deals directly with the transportation system, the Alma transportation system. And of course, I've been talking about the possibility of other townships being able to join and that type of thing. Well, Tim and I had a good conversation with them. And one of the things they asked, and one of the things that I would, in general speaking, if a group came before us and wanted to form an authority, would we be accepting of the countywide authority for transportation? And I believe that we need it. I believe its time is coming. It would take us a while, a couple of years to get it all together. But I think we can put it out there. I know there'd be some issues in the south part of the county in saying that, I believe that there's nursing homes. You've got Rainbow Lake, you've got other people out there, the school system, you got everything else that would require a transportation system. And I'm sure there's a lot of folks that live in the country that are getting older, can't drive anymore, and they depend a lot on a relative to take them somewhere. You know, so the millage currently is 1 mil, but they only collect 0.8 of a mil, 0.8 mils. That's what they currently collect. And asking them if they thought there would be any increases, and they said, not right now. It seems to be running very well. So I just thought I'd bring that to you guys and see what your general thoughts were as far as if someone came in the next year or so and asked if we'd support a millage, if we would. So just generally speaking.
Is that the same? I think they're the same ones that go to Mount Pleasant too, aren't they?
No, they don't go to Mount Pleasant,
No, okay.
No. but they go all over. Right now, they go to Alma, of course, Pine River Township, St. Louis, and Ithaca. And there's a lot of people that want to go by J.J. Ruby's. You can't stop because the bus won't stop there. Fortunately, in the other towns, they come, Ithaca's in it, so that a lot of people come to this courthouse every day. You'll see bus all the time here. And of course, and it's great for the court system. People that live, they can come right here and they don't have to drive. But I think it's a good overall thing for the community. So, other than that, I guess that's all I got.
Yeah.
Well, my meetings are generally the second week of the month. So the first was last Wednesday. So I've got a couple meetings this week I could go to, and next week I have a couple of meetings I could go to. I went on the 25th, Wednesday, to the Republican meeting, and Amanda Love was there. She was running for Secretary of State that Lady Benson occupies, but she's running, the way I understand it, she's running for governor. So that position's open, and Jan was there for the first part of it, not for the pizza. But you went Saturday to know about it?
Yes, I spent the whole day.
Did Amanda Love, was she nominated?
Yeah, that was a funny thing how that all went on. They did voting to see who was most likely to get that position. But actually, they all can still run during the regular election. And so it was kind of a strange situation. That's the first time I'd ever been to one where they were trying to find out the most popular person and who basically where they were going to funnel the money to run.
They run in the primary then in August.
Yeah, they'll still be in the primary.
Because I
She was there.
and they pick out somebody that. That's it.
That's it, okay. Well, I had a meeting at lunchtime today with Greater Gratiot, and they bought us lunch. But I'll let Casey talk about the rest of it. And that's pretty much it. The last month I've been recuperating.
Oh, you railroaded me one more time.
Yeah. You may get another free lunch. Okay, moving on. Yeo and Yeo.
I want to say it's nice to see you this time of year.
Yes, it is. This is closer to the appropriate time of year to be
Right.
here, definitely. All right, well, we are going to go through the actual audit results this evening. We were able to get everything finished in time and filed timely with the state. So no issues with compliance on that end like we had in the previous fiscal year. So thank you to Todd and everyone in his department for making that work at the last minute, especially with the second major program that had to be audited after some adjustments were made. We appreciate them stepping in. So we're going to start on the audit opinion page. So your county received an unmodified or clean audit opinion. That's the one you want us to be issuing to you. It essentially means that we have taken into consideration the accounting rules you're required to follow and materiality to make sure that what's being presented has been done so fairly in accordance with those rules, along with taking a look at design and implementation of internal controls as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about general fund numbers. We'll touch on delinquent tax from long-term obligations and then talk about compliance and internal controls. So the next page has a 5-year history of general fund revenues for you. So you can see over time, relatively consistent and trending upwards. 2025 fiscal year ended with about 18.4 million in total revenues. About 66% of that comes in the form of property taxes. And then you can kind of see the other categories there. Your intergovernmental and charges for services are your next most significant. But really those categories, while they're oftentimes increasing, they do so kind of proportionately to one another. The following page has your general fund expenditures. Here you're going to see a fairly large increase from the previous year. Fiscal year 2025 ended with about 17.9 million in total expenditures. A couple of things as to why this increased, and mostly it's within that black piece of the bar there at the top, kind of the other category. This is where you would find the additional $1 million that was moved to the airport. So that happened during the year. There was also about 380,000 or so transferred out to the juvenile child care fund. That was a strategic move on your part to kind of provide that fund with some more carryover fund balance to help with some of the ebbs and flows that fund can have. Some years it really has a lot in expenditures and can go into a deficit. Other years it doesn't spend nearly as much. So that was kind of meant to help smooth out fund balance in that fund over time for you. Within the public safety category, kind of the red portion of the bar there, all of secondary road patrol was moved back into general fund. That's a fund that's kind of moved all over the place for you for the last few years. But you are spending 100% of the millage money that comes in for that every year. So there's not really a need to have it in a separate fund. And it just makes sense, accounting sense, to keep things more simple, to have it all in one place. So that's kind of why that bar increased from the previous year. So then ending the year, we'll talk about fund balance. So total fund balance in the general fund increased by roughly $500,000. That gave you about 13.1 million in total fund balance for the year. You'll see that's broken up into various categories, the most significant being unassigned, which is about 9.5 million. And then your next most significant category is going to be assigned fund balance, which are amounts that either administration or through the board have set aside for various purposes. So the two largest components of that are for building renovations, potentially in the future, and the OPEB liability. So that makes up the majority of the 3.3 million set aside there. And that's always kind of at your discretion. You don't have to assign dollars, but a lot of times when you have fund balance, it's a good practice to put in place to be thinking about those future projects. It's kind of like showing that you're saving up funds for a specific purpose. All right, next page is the delinquent tax revolving fund. So usually what we kind of talk about here is how did that fund end up and what's there to kind of be able to use into the future? So that fund ended with net position of about 9.6 million. And of that, there's actually 7.5 million in cash and investments. So that fund has a healthy amount in it to be able to buy the tax liabilities at property tax reconciliation time without having to go out and borrow to do so. And then last piece on the numbers side of things, we take a look at the long-term obligations that are outstanding just for governmental activities, not including the component units. So drains, those numbers aren't included here. On the bond side, the fiscal year you're in now is going to have the final payment on the pension bond. So you'll see that drop off next year. Compensated absences stays pretty steady from year to year, slight uptick this year, but nothing significant. Don't have a significant amount of leases and installment purchases. The most significant long-term obligation is still the net pension liability. So this year that came in at about 6.3 million. That was up about 170,000 or so from the previous year. Obviously, that can really depend on what the market valuation is at that one point in time when they take the figures. And then on the OPEB side, so the healthcare piece of that, you actually ended the year with an OPEB asset, which means there are more dollars sitting in that trust than there is obligation to pay. Again, that can change annually. But right now you're in a positive position for that. So I think that shows a lot of foresight in setting aside those dollars and making sure that they're invested well so that, you know, you're getting good returns to cover the annual payments that you need to be making. Okay, changing gears, we're going to talk about compliance. So the largest compliance piece of your audit is the single audit where we're looking at those federal dollars. So in the past, the threshold for a single audit was $750,000. That threshold has now moved up to $1 million. So, you know, everything is inflating and that number really needed to move up. There's a lot of places that are having to spend a lot of money on these single audits that maybe don't necessarily need to. And I think that's what the federal government realized in changing that threshold. But you still needed one for this year. And we took a look at two programs. So I've listed those for you there. The first one is the same program we've looked at the last several years as you've spent down those ARPA dollars. And then the second one is the child support services. So friend of the court money and the prosecuting attorney office also ends up with some dollars that flow through this grant. That is a grant that prior to the pandemic was the program that was normally tested because it's the most significant for you. So at the end of the day, though, no federal award findings related to those programs. So really good work by the departments that are overseeing those dollars, making sure they're doing what they need to. Okay, overall on the internal control side, we did end up having one material weakness this year, and that relates to having significant audit adjustments. So I put kind of some of the numbers there for you regarding number of entries and kind of how many accounts that affects. Overall, there was one entry in particular that was material that relates to the special assessments and how they're recorded in the drain funds. And so that had not been properly adjusted, the receivable, and then what we call the deferred inflow of resources. So that ultimately is what makes it a material weakness. But then we have to kind of sit back and think, okay, if all these other adjustments hadn't been posted, could that have influenced someone's opinion about something they read in your financial statements? So hopeful that some more work will be done next year. Obviously, you had many changes in the finance department. And I did want to point out a couple positives from what we saw in changes. There was really good work done this year on eliminating unnecessary funds. So your county has had a very large chart of accounts and several funds that have had just these very small dollar amounts in them, or dollar amounts running through them that really didn't need to be. They could have been rolled into another fund. And so the Woodhill group, while they were here, went through and did a good amount of cleanup. So I think that's positive for you. And we didn't see any issues in particular with that cleanup. Oftentimes they actually reached out during that process to make sure they weren't missing some compliance requirement or another reason why maybe funds were in a separate fund. And this year we also felt like there were more actual work papers prepared by the team here versus kind of giving us a smattering of a lot of information and kind of you auditor figure it out mode. It was more, we've figured it out. We have a work paper to show kind of our thought process. So we would really encourage more of that type of reconciling at year end. And I'm sure Todd is going to be doing that because he was the one creating some of them this year too. So I'm looking forward to more of that work next year. The last page here then, within your materials, you'll find a letter at the back of the thickest bound report that you have. I'm just going to touch on some of the key elements in that letter because they are items that we're required to communicate to you as governance. The first one is the fact that there is estimation that goes into your financial statements. So there is a list in there of the estimates, your net pension liability, net OPEB liability, your compensated absences, and then your depreciation related to capital assets are all what we consider to be significant estimates. So that means we're required to do a little more work in looking at those to make sure the inputs are reasonable. The other piece in there relates to significant risks. So throughout the audit planning process, we have to take a look at where do we think something could be going wrong. So we identify a few areas. The first is management override. So where could someone, closer to the top or at the very top, circumvent controls to do something that shouldn't be done. So we do different tests for that. We also look at ways that revenue is improperly recognized. So special tests for that. And then this year we specifically focused some procedures related to payroll and reimbursements. So kind of the culmination of that, we did have some areas where we're not calling items findings because a finding is something more like material weakness, significant deficiency, major noncompliance. But we do have management comments. So areas where we believe additional work should take place, controls evaluated and maybe some more things cleaned up. So I kind of just gave you the headings of those comments there. There is more detail within that letter that you can read through at a later time. Employee reimbursements, we did have some issues there with either not having proper documentation or maybe sometimes things were reimbursed twice based on how forms were filled out. So that's a good area to look at. Within the drains, there was some revenue that was recognized incorrectly. It actually was recorded incorrectly in the previous year. So this year it was fixed. There were some dollars that came in that were recorded as revenue, but really they should just be held as kind of deposit dollars until they're actually spent. It has to do with a contract with the state of Michigan. So now I think there's better understanding of how that situation works. I don't think it was anyone trying to do anything wrong. It was just not understanding how the dollars came in and out and the correct accounting for those. The third area relates to manual journal entries. So when we're looking at a system of internal controls, anytime someone can be in your general ledger posting adjustments and not having any second set of eyes on that, we consider that to be a problem. So this is an area where those with access and authority to post entries also need to have a second set of eyes looking at entries and approving and signing off on those. And then the last item related to some employee pay rates. So when we did some of our testing, there's not great documentation within the personnel files to show quickly and very clearly what a person should be being paid. And there were cases where when you start looking at some of the contract schedules, there were actually people being improperly paid. Some people were not being paid enough in a couple of cases. So again, this might kind of go along with the time entry system, but looking at that whole payroll setup process and making sure that it's very clear that payroll knows how much someone should be being paid, the employee knows how much they should be being paid, and that there's good documentation of that for everyone. And with that, I just want to take a moment to thank Todd. I know this was a lot stepping into the position at the time of year that he did, but he really did a good job being very helpful, not always knowing the answer, but making sure he went and found the answer, finding as much support and documentation as he possibly could. We had a lot of really good discussions on other things that could use some improvement, some ideas that maybe aren't to the level we need to necessarily put in writing. But we also know you're having the separate internal control study done, which we are highly in support of, and hope you kind of take the recommendations from that to heart as well to make the process better overall. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Good job.
Sam, thank you.
Nice to have some pleasant news.
Thank you.
Next year, Todd's assured us that this thing's gonna be ready to rock and roll and no problem at all. Right, Todd? Huh? That will be sweet music to everyone's ears.
Hey, this is wonderful. This audit right here, leaps and bounds,
I know.
leaps and bounds.
Okay, next up, consideration to approve resolution, the Gratiot County-wide master plan. Do we have a master plan?
Yes, so the final draft of the master plan is what you're looking at today. It has been through several rounds of public comment. We've had 7 different public meetings. And each unit in the county is a part of this. So we ask you all to approve it just based on being involved in the countywide effort, but also on behalf of those 5 townships, 6 townships that you represent for zoning. So if you have any questions, I can take them.
I want to see the final thing. I haven't ever got to see it.
Oh, well,
We don't have it, and neither has our new administrator.
it still
like-
does say draft. On,
I haven't seen it, been given anything since the one that you weren't very happy with my comments about.
oh, no,
I really want to support it, but I'd really like to read it and look at it before I get a chance to see it.
the file where it is online, because it is such a large
Yeah, yeah,
document,
yeah.
it still says draft
Yep.
until
Use your
everyone has approved
Use
it.
your
and it will-
computer skills, Steve. Use your computer skills, Steve.
Oh, I will.
What did I say?
I will.
That's right, it was on. I couldn't see it on my phone, it was on my phone, but.
Yeah, it's about 200 and some pages with lots
I
of,
told Tim, I said, my packet didn't have no 200 and some pages.
yeah, there should
The
have,
original one was about
but,
thick.
okay. But we can, that QR code and the link will take you right to it. I can also send it to you via email. We can come back at a later date if you want to review that. That one sheet is a very broad level summary of all the goals and the objectives. And then the plan itself goes into the individual strategies to achieve those.
I'm very excited to approve it because I know how much work you've done. You know, we had our meeting where we talked about it. Just, I haven't had a chance to review the whole thing. And then when I was talking with Tim, and Tim hadn't seen it either, and he's our new administrator, I was like, wow. I was like, it's really thick. It's like,
No, my apologies for that.
you're gonna have a good,
And-
good weekend, you know, sitting with a cup of coffee and reading.
It's a lot of, yeah.
A lot of pages.
And I do caution, one of the biggest things that we
As long as you got rid of core notes and things like that, we're good.
one of the biggest issues we had is there's a section in it that discusses all the public input that we received from the public hearings and public comment sessions before we constructed the plan. And in talking with the writers or the consultants who wrote it, even though some of that, because it was public perception, might not always have been the most accurate, because not, some people aren't aware that maybe, I think one of the suggestions was there's no community pool. Well, there is a community pool in St. Louis. There is, Alma Public Schools has a pool that's open for the community. So even though there's some things that are incorrect, we decided to leave those in there because what we decided is that might be a marketing issue though, than in making people aware of the resources we have. So even though it might not be true, it gives us somewhere to act.
Mhm.
So if you, I want to say it's section 3 from memory, but I can point it out to you. And it is a large section because I've had people say, well, this isn't true. And I know. I know, but that's just the way that some public had perceived that, so. And so we previously came here, and before we started the 63-day review period, and we received no comments from the 63-day review period from the public.
You be offended if we tabled it till the next meeting, just 2 weeks?
No, you
Give me an opportunity. I would like to be able to read it. I'd also would like Tim to be able to actually get his eyes on it and see it. Because I mean,
can.
this is a big deal, the Gratiot County.
It is, yeah.
Dave and I
Real
talked about it like that, without one of these, we don't qualify for some of our grant fundings and to put in for them. I want to read about how wonderful our county is.
Yeah, and what I've already seen about happening with this plan that didn't in the past is that it's not just going to sit on a shelf. We've already had work groups formed on areas of housing, childcare and things like that. So I really truly believe it's going to be an active plan
Good.
versus one that just sits on a shelf, which is after all the input from many, many people in the community, I think that's really good to see.
It is awesome.
Yeah, so.
Well, how many times has this been redone? Like the master plan, do you know
It's a county-wide effort. I believe, yeah, it's redone every 5 years, and I believe the first year it was done was 2007. So
So we've had it.
this is the 4th time.
Okay.
Question for you
That's maybe
too.
how long it takes for people to realize.
Yeah.
20.
Did it come by email or did it come by text message or?
I think it would have come by email, you said, Angie?
I want to say that I sent it to you, but I just went through my sents. I'll have to go through them again and make sure. Because I thought I sent that link to you because it was so big.
I
Okay.
remember getting that.
Yeah, and it might have,
I may have missed it too, but
also been a link and an attachment.
She did send some stuff, but I think I opened it up and I thought, oh, I don't have time to.
It's a lot of
I
pages.
do try to pay attention
I
to
didn't
it.
even read it though.
Blame it all on Angie.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's blame everything on Angie.
But yeah, I
That'll work for you.
Yeah.
That would be great. 'Cause,
can get it to you tomorrow.
I mean, or I can,
Yeah.
I just want to.
Yeah, yeah.
Should have printed
And
it.
just in case there was any confusion, it is still marked draft, but that is the final version. So it's every time there's been a change, it's been automatically updated on that link. So that link has remained static the entire time.
Okay, motion by Steve to table this to the next meeting. Is there a second? Moved by Steve, supported by George to table this until the next meeting. All those in favor, say aye.
Are you getting a copy of
Pass.
that, Steve?
I'm just gonna do it electronically, I think, because
Okay, next up,
250 pages of paper.
Can you get me a yeah, I like paper.
I'm assuring that I won't have to worry about a highlighter this time, so.
I'll read every bit of it. I read it twice. Okay, thanks. I'll stop by sometime tomorrow. Thank you.
next up, a resolution to submit to the electorate special millage request. Do you want to talk on that, Casey?
You're up next. Yes.
Sat down too soon?
Just wasn't sure if you needed any questions on this one. This one is just our 4 years have come and gone. It was a very busy 4 years. So we are proposing for our annual, or not annual, but 4-year millage renewal, which will be August 4th of 2026. It is in conjunction with MSU Extension, which Ashley was here earlier, but I think she had to head to another meeting. But nothing changed from the last 4 years in the language. We've been working with Tim and the county attorneys to make sure that that's all correct and ready to go. So if you have any other specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved to adopt resolution number 26409 as presented.
Second it.
Moved by Steve, supported by Jan, to approve resolution 26-409. Special millage for the renewal and the restoration of funding for agriculture and economic development. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Or should that be a
Need to be.
record roll call?
Yeah.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes.
Commissioner Gay,
Yes.
Commissioner Sapsy,
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes. Next up, consideration to approve resolution 26-410. Special millage renewal and restoration of funding for the Gratiot County Commission on Aging. They always want money.
They get a lot of money.
Yeah, they do. And it goes for a good cause.
And it's well,
Anyway,
they do a good job with their money.
Good thing you have going for yourself is that we're all getting to that age where we're gonna need. It's not.
Huh?
Anything you want to talk about? Better come up here. I mean, we might be on the fence about this.
Same as,
You let Dave drive for you.
well,
That could be a
concern in and of itself.
He hasn't been driving lately, has he? He said that real quick.
So just like Greater Gratiot, we're here to ask about a renewal to our millage. Commission on Aging, it's been a rapid 4 years. Can't believe it's already that time again, but I don't know if you have any specific questions for me.
Do you know how long this one has been?
5 years.
Four.
Or 4
It's every 4 years, but how many times have we renewed
Oh
this?
my gosh.
Since
Is this been around?
94.
Yeah, it's been for, yeah, it's been a long, yeah. Almost 30.
That's what I wanted to know is,
Yeah.
and I think that's awesome when something that's been around that long. Tried and true, and I think you guys have continued to just get better and better.
Our goal.
you do a really good job. I know a lot of people that call Commission on Aging for help, so you've always done well with it, so thanks.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
what age do you have to be considered a senior citizen?
60 plus.
60 plus.
You made it, Dave.
A
Lot of good news for you and bad news.
lot of room for spare.
News, you made it. Bad news, you're not young anymore. I'll entertain a motion to, or I'll move, I should say, to adopt resolution, what's the number? 26-409, I believe.
10.
410.
410, I'm sorry, I got the wrong one. 410,
Second it.
Commission on Aging.
Moved by George, supported by Jan, to approve a resolution 26-410 to put a special millage before the electorate for the restoration of funding for the Commission on Aging. Again, let's do this in roll call.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes.
Commissioner Gay,
Yes.
Commissioner Sapsy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes. Jen, we didn't really have,
Good.
didn't have any questions. We just wanted to have you up there.
That's right. Exactly.
Next up, equalization report.
All right, so tonight I have the 2026 equalization report. So the equalization report, it's got a lot of data in it and a lot of little writing. So I figured an easier way to present the report is put together a presentation instead of reading the actual report to you, just to give you a little background information into how do we create the report, and maybe as a guide while you're looking through the report to help you understand the data. Here. All right, so start.
Lots of,
What's that?
lots of data.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff in there. So start.
Exciting.
Starting off with the equalization department, it is Jamie Gutierrez. She's our appraiser, and myself. So before we actually get into the report, I want to give a little bit of background information into this past equalization cycle and what the department does to create the equalization report. So as I go through this too, feel free to tell me if I need to slow down, speed up, ask questions, anything like that. So the equalization cycle revolves heavily around the equalization studies. So those begin basically right after the equalization report here in April. We begin with reviewing, verifying sales in each class of property throughout the county. So what we do is we go into each township, each city, and we look at the sales they have in each class of property to determine whether or not they're going to need a sales study or an appraisal study in that unit. And I'll get to what the difference is between those in a couple slides here. But I put together just a small table here to show what we did last year. So it has the classes of property, of real property in the county, and then the amount of parcels that we looked at in the sales studies, the amount of parcels we looked at in the appraisal studies, and the the percentage of each class of property that represented. And then we completed a total of 65 studies, and then I gave a breakdown of that below for each class of property. So the equalization studies really revolve around this concept of a sales ratio or an assessment ratio. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit before moving forward. So what a sales ratio is the ratio that is created when you take the assessed value of a property and you divide it by the sale price of that property. So the assessed value, that's the 50% of the true cash value of a property, and you're going to take that and divide it by what that property sold for. So for example, let's say we have a property that has an assessed value of 48,000, so a true cash value of 96,000. That property then sells for $100,000. We would calculate the sales ratio for that property by taking 48,000 divided by 100,000, and we would get 0.48 or 48%. So in assessing or in Michigan, 50% for a sales ratio, that's kind of the golden number. When a property has a 50% sales ratio, that means that the assessor is valuing that property exactly with what it sold for. So they're right on the money there. A ratio that is below 50%, like the example, 48%, that means the assessor is valuing that property slightly lower than what it sold for. A ratio above 50% is coming in a little bit higher than what that property sold for, so they need to lower that a little bit. So what we do is we take this form, and it's called a sales study. And this is how we look at these sales that are in a class of property. We compile them into this form, and you can see we've got 12 parcels on there that are sales. And these sales are sales that we look at, we verify, and we ensure that they're good representations of the current market. They're not a bad sale or anything like that. And then on the right-hand side of the form, you can see basically that equation for the sales ratio we're talking about. We have the sales price, then we have the assessment on that property, and then we have the resulting ratio. So following that ratio column down on the right, you can see at the bottom of the report for this township, this class of property, we have 12 sales and a resulting sales ratio of 41%. So 41%, that's quite a bit lower than 50%. So for this class of property, those values need to go up quite a bit to keep up with the market. But in the past 5 years in the residential class, a sales ratio of 41% is pretty typical. So let's say a class of property does not have enough sales for us to look at. For example, maybe they have 2 commercial sales in the whole entire unit. And so we can't create a solid sales study with 2 commercial sales. So what we would do is an appraisal study. Basically, we're going to pick a random sampling of properties in this township. We are going to go out to those properties. We're going to collect all the data. We're going to do a full appraisal on those properties. And we're basically going to fake a sale price. We're going to say, okay, if this property is sold today, this is what exactly we believe it would sell for. And so instead of having a sale price, we have an appraisal value, and that appraisal value is compared to the assessment on that property, and that gives us a ratio. And so we take this form here, the appraisal study, we list all the properties, and you can see at the bottom, we've studied 18 properties for this example, and with an ending ratio of 47%. So we do a sales study or an appraisal study for every single class of property in the county. And then we need a way basically to communicate those findings to the assessor. So we take this form called the L4018 and we fill this out with our study results for the current year, and then we send it to the assessor. So the assessor receives this form, the 4018, and they can see, for example, in their agricultural class, okay, the equalization department looked at 30 parcels this year in my township, and they came up with a ratio of 46.31%. So the assessor is required to have the values in that class be coming in between a 49 and a 50%. So we tell them, okay, right now you're coming at a 46%, you need to raise those values a little bit to be coming in between that 49 and 50 range. So that brings us to a form called the L4023. So the assessor receives that 4018, those study results from our department, and then they need a way to basically prove to us that they made those changes in their database and that they are bringing their values up to conform with what the ratio we gave them. And they do that through this form called the 4023. So on the actual form example here, you can see there's a column off to the right-hand side called percent ratio. And at the top of that, the starting percent is the 46.93. That would be the ratio they received from us. And then you can see, making your way down through that report, the value changes that they made in their township to get their class of property to a 49.58. So if they turned in this 4023 at March Board of Review to us, and that ratio was not between 49 and 50%, we as the equalization department would be required to place a factor on that class of property. So let's say they turned in that form and their final ratio was a 45%. We would be required to place a factor on every parcel in that class of property to raise it up to 50%. So we would try really hard to avoid any type of factors. It's just a bad way to assess property. But that's what we'd be required to do if that was not between 49 and 50%. And we didn't have any units this year that needed any sort of factors. So the equalization studies, like I said, begin after we finish the equalization report. So after this report's approved, we're going to go right into our next year's our equalization cycle and start our studies all over again. We have to have those results, that 4018 form, to the assessors by December 1st, but we typically shoot to have that to them kind of mid-November. It gives us a little bit of time to have communication with those assessors. Maybe we send that form to an assessor and they say, okay, I'm not seeing this at all in my township. And the assessor, they really are the valuation experts for their township. So we're going to want to have a communication or communicate with that assessor to figure out why we're coming in so different and basically solve that issue. So, and I listed on here the forms that we use to complete the equalization studies. So we turn that form, the 4018, to the assessors mid-November. They have until March Board of Review to get those values where they need to be. So once they are finished with their assessment roll, they will send that assessment roll to us for a pre-March Board of Review audit. So we will look at all their totals, everything in their database. And what we're really looking for is to make sure that none of these units are going to need a factor kind of thing. So if we can look at that before March Board of Review, that's going to help us avoid any factors, anything of basically a bad situation like that, because if we catch it beforehand, we can fix it. If they turn their assessment roll in after March quarter review, it's going to be a factor. We don't really have a choice to go back at that point. So we do the pre-March quarter review audit. We send the assessment roll back to the assessors. They turn it into their March quarter review. They then finalize their assessment roll at the March quarter review, and then they'll send it to us. We take their final assessment roll, we audit the data one more time, we compile it into our equalization report, and we turn it over to you for county equalization. So that is kind of a brief overview of what the equalization studies and how we create the equalization report. And then this is just a list of additional functions and reports that are required by our office throughout the year in addition to the equalization studies. And I won't go through all these. I just, if you have any questions on any of them, I'd be happy to walk through them. So getting into the actual equalization report. The beginning of the report has a letter to the Board of Commissioners, basically just stating that the Equalization Department has finished its review of the 2026 assessment rolls. And it also states on there what our recommended county equalized value is for 2026. And then we break those down on page 5 of the equalization report. So you can see each class of property in addition to personal property and what the total recommended equalized value of the county is for 2026. Moving along in the report is pages 6 through 11. This part of the report, we are breaking down all of the classes of property with the townships and showing the percent change in the assessed value and taxable value from 2025 to 2026. And I condensed that information into this small table just for this presentation. So you can see basically the amount of increase or decrease that happened between the values from year to year. And you can see there's a big one on there that stands out, which is the industrial personal. Yep. So that is a combination of the depreciation from the different personal property going on in the township, but also the solar farms went to the PILT program this year. So the PILT program is a special act, so we don't equalize special acts. And so that value comes off of the assessment roll. So it looks like a huge decrease like this. So, but it's a different program. They're paying taxes in a different way kind of thing, but it's just not going to show up on the assessed or taxable value. Page 12 of the report just shows a breakdown of the county equalized values in each class of property. Page 13 shows the value trends for, I think, the past 18 years in the county for the assessed value, the taxable value, and the personal property taxable value. Page 14 is an estimate of the county millages and what those millages will generate with the current taxable value. And this also, like I said before, this is just the millage rates of what they would generate with the taxable value. This doesn't take into account any sort of PILT programs, anything on the special assessment roll, basically. This is the millage reduction fraction for the year. So it's really early for us to be looking at the millage reduction fraction. This form is due at the end of May, but it does look like that we're going to receive a small reduction in our millages this year. So I just wanted to include that in the report. This is definitely considered to be preliminary. It might change slightly as we get closer to when this report is due, but I just wanted to make you aware of it kind of thing. So I do cover the millage reduction fraction a lot more in depth at the report, apportionment report at the end of the year. But if you have any questions on the millage reduction fraction, why it's used, how it comes into play, anything like that, I'd be happy to answer them. So pages 16 through 40 of the equalization report is basically taking these assessed and taxable values and breaking them down in a different way. Each township and city in the county has a page in this part of the report, and all of their values are shown and broken down in this section. Pages 41 through, I believe I have 43 on here, but I think it's actually like 46. This part of the report is it's called the L 4024. This is the report that shows to the State Tax Commission that we have completed county equalization, and these are the county equalized values that were approved by the Board of Commissioners. So we have this report in here, you sign it, we turn it into the state to show the county equalization has been completed. I believe the only thing I missed in there is we do include a report in here that is called a school district report. We include that in there because it's a breakdown of all the school districts and the taxable value information, and we get asked for that a lot. So included in here, we can post that on the website. People have access to it easy. So, and that is the total equalization report. Does anyone have any questions?
I know sometimes you're seeing trends just from me personally talking to you. Obviously you explained why we've seen the big reduction because of the PILT thing with the solar farms. What other trends, I guess? Obviously you mentioned a little bit about the residential stuff, why your assessed values were off. Just right now, things are selling
Yeah.
higher than what?
Yep, it does seem like things are cooling off a little, not in a major way, but the ratios seem to be a little bit closer to 50% than what we've been seeing in the past 5 years. So not by much. I mean, maybe a couple years ago, the average would be like a 42% or something like that. Maybe this year it's a 44, 45 kind of thing. But yeah, it did seem like property values in the county did increase quite a bit. If you disregard the decrease in industrial personal property. I mean, that was a very large decrease from those farms going to the PILT roll, and the actual taxable value in the county, I think, decreased by like 0.5% or something like that. So there was some fairly large increases in the county going on, but you kind of just can't see them. And when you just look at the totals because of that farms or the solar farms coming to our roll. Yep.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve resolution 26-404 to adopt the equalization report?
I so move to adopt resolution 26-404 as it's.
Motion by Steve, supported by George, to approve resolution 26-404 to adopt the county equalization report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you,
Thank you
Keegan.
very much.
Thank you.
Next up, consideration to approve revise of fiscal year staffing position allocation.
Gratiot,
It's 5.
You got, Gratiot Conservation District next, right?
number 5.
J5.
5 says fiscal year staffing allocation.
Didn't get a new one.
Give him
Did you give them
Moving
one?
off
a
again.
new one. He decided not to use it.
I don't like that one.
Kevin would just love to stay till the very end of this meeting.
I'm available all evening. Hi, I'm Kevin Craig. I'm on the board of directors for the Gratiot Conservation District, and I have a short slide presentation. I've also printed it out for you. So you can take it with you or make notes, whatever you'd like. And it's just 12 slides, but it's meant to be an introduction to the Conservation District, basically in the state, how we function and what we do, and maybe our mission. Black and white is cheaper than color, so sorry.
No.
Do I use this or is Matt doing it?
What? No.
Going from slide to slide?
Use it.
Okay. So yes, I've been on the board since 2009. I'm the chairman. All of our director positions have been filled. We have 5 directors. They've all been elected instead of appointed now. So that's great for us. We have full staffing. We have a district manager, and we have a meat technician. We have a farm bill technician, and we also now have a program assistant whose job is to help out NRCS and everybody kind of do some boots on the ground work and fill in where necessary. 75 conservation districts in the state. We have 83 counties, so there's a few districts that have merged with others, and some are even half and half. We have a few in the UP that have done that, and it's worked out quite well for them. But most importantly, I wanted to point out, we are a locally organized special purpose unit of state government. So it's kind of legalese term, but that's how we function. There's actually a big section of conservation law that directs us in our way, and we are overseen by MDARD. There are oversight from the state, and we have regional coordinators that help us with day-to-day, there we go. So there's a Natural Resources Environmental Protection Act that direct us in what we're supposed to do, our mandates. We provide technical assistance for farmers and landowners in the county. We help them also with information and education to help them with their land. Our main goal, our main mandate, I suppose, is private lands in the state rather than public lands. And these are some of the programs, if you're good with acronyms and abbreviations, you may have seen some of these before, but there's several and there's many more than just what's listed here. But these are just names of some of the programs that we administer, and NRCS is the part of, I guess there's three departments or three units in the building over there. If you're familiar with the USDA Service Center, we have FSA in there. We have NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Services, and they will provide the funding and technical assistance for landowners and farmers that install conservation practices on their property. And these are just some of the programs that are available depending on your situation. And every conservation is unique in the state. Some of them are shoreline districts, some of them have a lot of forestry, some have a lot of mining, some are very ag, like Gratiot County is very ag related. So each one is unique in the services and maybe the needs of the county for them. There's also a section down there, you see soil and sedimentation permits. Some conservation districts take care of that for their county. So our state organization is MACD, Michigan Association of Conservation Districts. Just to help provide leadership and keep us pointed in the right direction. They help us with our legislators and issues with them. And it's a good thing to get to know, Mr. Jerry Nair is our state representative. And we have another, we just had a meeting with him the other day. I try to stay in touch with our representatives too, because and Jerry is a farmer anyway. So he's very much in support of what we do and understands what we do. So if you ever have a chance to talk with your legislators, if you could put a good word in for conservation districts, because they're working on the state budget, we would appreciate that. So these are some of the partners that we work with. MDARD, of course, I mentioned, USDA, NRCS, Michigan Extension, and so forth. But they're great partnerships, and we tag team off of each other. And many times we attend functions that the other partner hosts, and we just try to create awareness so people know we're here and we're going to help out with a lot of their land needs. So like I said, we do have a 5-member board, and we are all elected. I forget how many years we do it. Every 2 years, I think we do a conservation or resource needs assessment, which is basically a survey that's handed out to residents of the conservation district, and they fill out, answer questions that we put on there. And for instance, in 2022, these are the top 5 priorities according to the people that filled out the survey. And those priorities also align with MDARD's focus in the state as well, too. So we are right in line with them. And every 2 years, we have to conduct a financial audit and a state approved budget too. So they know that we are spending the money properly. And so it really works. Here we can see that it's a huge, agriculture economy in Michigan, over $100 billion. And we help landowners and other farmers. And down there, you see 72% of Michigan land is privately owned. And so we really can influence and help landowners and private land in general. You can be an urban dweller and still reach out to us, and we have a tree sale going on this week. Tree sales, reforestation, very helpful to a lot of urban people as well as food plots and things like that. So the return on investment, you've probably seen this or heard of this before. This is, in this example, this is a year or so old, but 5 to 1. And now I think it's closer to 7 to 1. If the dollar rolls over in that local area before it leaves. And so when the funding comes through from NRCS, the landowner hires contractors. They buy seed. They have equipment they buy. They, spend the money locally. And so that's what this kind of is a firm that stays locally for quite a while, several turnovers of that. So currently we're funded through the state of Michigan with for all the conservation districts, a $3 million grant for operational funding. And that's about 40,000 per district. And we are required to turn in a report or deliverables every quarter on what we've done, what we're doing, what our future plans are, so they can see that also. And then other districts receive funding from local villages, county and townships, other state and federal grants, even private foundations and individual donors help out too. And so it really helps to support and retain our employees when we have a kind of a stable income, stable revenue flow. A lot of employees come and go that we've had in the past. It's kind of a stepping stone, maybe to move into other areas of natural resources or agriculture. It really helps with their career goals. But we'd like them to stay around. So the $3 million investment is kind of a starting point. I think the next slide will show, or this slide will show, we're asking for another 10 million from the state. That will really help out per district. That'll bring it up to $177,000 per district. But that will allow districts to have like a full-time district manager and have a full-time conservation planner and support benefits that help retain them too. Right now, benefits and insurance and things like that are maybe not available in every conservation district. They're all, like I said before, unique, and some of them have a great deal of revenue. If they're on a shoreline, Grand Traverse has a great deal of revenue compared to other conservation districts that maybe not on shoreline, but they take advantage of the resources they have and utilize them, and a lot of them have workshops. They have educational programs. They'll have tours. We have our unique situation here with the Forest Hill Nature Center in our county. And to me, it's like a diamond in the rough. They provide a great deal of education for not just students in Gratiot County, but Central Michigan, Elm College, and other neighboring counties will come. And it's free to walk the trails. You can go on a bird hike, look for nature. The buildings are not open all the time, but we have a great manager. RESD manages the property for us right now. And there's a full-time manager out there that helps with all these programs for education with the school kids. So I just wanted to present this to maybe give you a little overview and an introduction to conservation districts. And I'd like to be on your agenda another time and maybe talk over what's in the master plan, some things maybe we've already done for you or can do in the near future. So my contact information is on the last page, along with the office phone number as well. If you have any more questions or concerns. Wanted to thank Angie for getting the last minute info prepared for the presentation. It wasn't not in the right format. So we got it done. But thank you very much for your time, and I'd like to come back. So, yes, sir.
Looking at the second to last page, Great Lakes States comparison of appropriated district funds. I mean, kind of alarming.
Pretty low.
We're the worst.
Right.
You have all the fresh water that surrounds us.
And these are all the great states.
Yeah.
And, water is so important.
Yeah. All of our rivers.
You would think.
Into the river. A lot of these other states, they if their water flows south, it goes to the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah.
Correct.
All of our rivers flow into, I don't think there's any that don't flow into the Great Lakes. So every bit of our water goes into the.
There's a little teeny bit down in southwestern that goes through Indiana and.
Is there?
But it's a very small territory. But yeah, so the rest of it all
I knew
goes.
the parts that like went out like southeast, but they end up in Ohio, which ends up into the Erie anyhow.
Into areas, yeah.
I guess I wasn't aware that there's part that goes into Indiana.
Very slower, but yeah, so Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ohio, tremendous amount of their budget is allocated for conservation districts. I mean, that's the issue that I bring up with our legislators too. It's not necessarily for you guys, but it shows.
It's just ironic to me that
Mhm. Yeah.
we are the Great Lakes state.
We're right in the middle.
How many of our lakes are polluted now? At one time I heard one of them was, but is that all it's polluted?
I suppose there's some in all the lakes, but
Just because
Think we have,
you're talking about,
it is, it has some form of
they're
pollution.
all polluted.
they all they're unique, like Lake Erie, especially the western end of it has got a lot of sedimentation and a lot.
That's what I heard.
Very,
If all this rain are like the river that goes through St. Louis, unfortunately, is really bad. I mean, there's about this much on top of the water that just sits there. When it gets heavy enough, it goes down.
Yeah.
So eventually that's gonna go out to one of the Great Lakes. Do you know, what is our percentage of clean water? One time it was 92%. I heard now it's down to 80 some percent.
I think it must be higher than that, but I don't have a figure. I mean, these huge rain events that we've had lately, those are so hard to plan for. And they do their thing. They wash the surface water into all the drains, the ditches and creeks, and off they go. Eventually it'll correct itself, but yes, the water's dirty looking for quite a while until it.
The Great Lakes does that ever get towards, I mean, does it just stay in the Great Lakes, that's it? Or does any of that water move out to like one of the oceans?
they all do eventually, every one of them.
The ocean.
Lord Seaway,
Get that out.
river.
Right out.
No, it's been raining so much. I think, wow, this is great. The lake, the river in St. Louis looks kind of nice now. But also I realize it's going into some other lake. Not good.
It's to Midland, like the Saginaw, and then, yeah, they're blessed with our. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Years and eyes water. In bad, go the other way.
Great divide, right?
See, water is one of the most important thing that we have.
What do we got next?
We can't live without water.
What
Without food, but not water. Makes me thirsty just thinking about it.
we got next? We got next, Dave.
6, okay.
Number 6.
406.
Consideration to approve a resolution 26-406 to revise the fiscal year staffing position allocation list. Did you have any comments on that, Tim?
Yeah, this is that position that's actually state funded, but because it does add a position, part-time position, you must approve it. So we're actually amending that staffing position allocation list that you approved with the budget when you adopted it for 2026. I'll point out, just a reminder, that the paragraph on the second page, substitute the treatment court fund for that general fund that's listed there. So it would be the fiscal year 2026 treatment court fund budget that would be amended to take in the grant money to pay for the position.
I so move that we approve resolution number 26-406 as presented.
Support.
Moved by Steve, supported by George, to approve resolution 26-406 to revise the fiscal year staffing position allocation list. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On consideration to approve a resolution to create a regional materials management plan.
Hello, commissioners. So the last time I was here with an agreement between Gratiot County and Eagle in that we are now all set for our reimbursable grant. And excitedly, we've now, as a committee, have decided on our vendor. The committee has decided to use RRS. And so what I'm presenting today is the contract with RRS to begin writing that plan. So the cost of that is split evenly between the 8 counties. So we are all equally responsible for the funds to write this plan. When I was here last time, I did start talking a little bit about that reimbursement. Because that is now signed, we are able to submit for reimbursement now. And since we just ended that first quarter of 2026, I will be submitting for about $18,000 in reimbursement for the salaries that I've had over the last 18 months. And they say that every day that process goes faster. So I do suspect that in short order, some of those funds will start coming in, which will help with the payment of the writing of this plan. And each time we are invoiced for the writing of this plan, that also is being submitted for reimbursement. So I'm here for any questions about it.
So RRS is just there to help you guys create the plan, correct? Yeah, it's not, they're not just so I want for clarification, Ray may listen to this, that's not like the company that's gonna do the recycling or whatever. This is just to help us get a company that's there to help us get this.
They are helping us through July of 2027 write that plan.
Yeah.
That is what the law says. And so they are helping us get from here to that finish line.
I have a question for you too. There's 8 counties. Are they all pretty much financially able to be a part of this or?
We all have the same funding coming in.
Okay,
I
good.
mean, it's going to be a little bit dependent based on their census. But there is not a concern from any of the counties where that proposal came in. It's largely going to be well below what our maximum request is for 1 year.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was wondering about that because it was my understanding there's a couple of the counties that were, they have a little bit of a financial problem. So it's good to know.
If that's the case, it's not being said in the community.
It's good. I don't even want to mention.
How many years did they guarantee these funds and is it?
It's expected to be ongoing.
Yeah, but
the per cap is for the first 3 years.
3 years, okay.
So we'll be at the 70 after those 3 years.
I so move that we approved resolution 26405 as approved or as presented.
Moved by Steve, supported by George to approve resolution 26-405 to approve an agreement to create a regional materials management plan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Sheila.
Can I say one more thing on this? I had a phone call last night from a neighbor. And he was telling, they also have the Blake, is that how you say it? I always say it wrong, Blake.
It's in St. Louis, right?
Huh?
It's in St. Louis?
Yeah,
They have their own plate program.
yeah, they do. But he was telling me that, he keeps his house really nice and his yard really nice.
Yeah.
But 2 houses down, they got garbage bags piled on top of each other next to their house. And he said he couldn't understand if you have that never say it. It's in place, then why are people putting their garbage out? And the thing I told him, the only thing I could come up with is if you're not able to pay the bill on it, then they're not gonna pick it up.
Well, in St. Louis all encompasses. Everything is in one bill. Their
Oh.
electric bill, their trash bill, everything comes in one bill. If they pay the bill, it's paid.
Yeah, but if they're not able to pay the whole bill, because I know that I have some friends that are not able to pay the whole bill.
Just your neighbor, go to City Hall.
He's gone to, I told him to go to City Hall.
Yeah.
And he complained about it, but I also told him, I was talking to our administrator today about, maybe what we need to do. These are hard times for a lot of people. Maybe set up a couple of dumpsters in different areas, especially like in St. Louis, put a couple of dumpsters there.
It'd be up to the city of St. Louis to do that.
But I know that I pay every month for my garbage pickup, but I know that in Isabel County, same amount that I'm paying, they're paying, but it's for 3 months. but I'm assuming, and I probably missed it from one of my letters that I got and didn't take the time to read it, that maybe they're using that money for other things in the city, such as we're redoing our streets and our pipes and all that, and also our telephone lines and stuff are being replaced. So I'm assuming that that's probably a way to collect extra money, but I'm just saying that there are a lot of people that are not able to pay that bill. They could put it out there, but they're not gonna pick it up if you're not paying it. And even though you have like mine, I have everything on one bill and it tells you how much I'm paying for each thing.
Yeah.
But if I don't pay that whole bill, that's probably the first thing that they would probably not pick up. I'm not sure, I don't know. But it's just something to, and he also told me there were several homes. It wasn't just the one home. There's other homes that's got all kinds of metal and old tires and all that kind of stuff in the same neighborhood.
I'm very hopeful that we will have a really good plan that we're able to actually use and implement some infrastructure, because the whole point of this is to increase access for our constituents. And so my goal is that this is a really good plan that works for the community that I live in. So I am dedicated to making my community better, and this is one of the ways that we can move forward.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I don't have a problem. In fact, I don't even put my garbage out there but once every couple of months because I'm not home and I don't have that much garbage. But I'm willing to help pay somebody else's if they want to bring their stuff over and stick it in my container, they could do it. But I'm just thinking that I know several places that as you drive around through St. Louis, you can see areas where they're not putting it out. And I'm assuming it has to be an issue.
Well, I think if you would go to City Hall, there's programs to help that, but some people have too much time on their hands to be complaining about their neighbors.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand too, if you really take good care of your area, your home and stuff, you want everybody in the same area to do the same, but I don't know if there's I don't know if that's the reason I'm telling you this. Is there another possible way to think through that and maybe do something else, like people that can't afford it and put a dumpster down there or someplace, and I don't know if that's something you can do or not.
Well, there's lots of regulations in the law. Part of that is education, which is going to make sure that people know what they can recycle and how they can recycle. But in addition to that, there is just going to be outreach so that people are going to know. And so that I am hopeful that as we provide additional education and additional access, that people will utilize it. That's the intention of the plan.
Because I know we have quite a few things now. We now have the ear program and we have the program with Blake. But obviously we have somebody in the audience here that you've got a problem in your community. There's problems in all the communities with people that's not putting their stuff out, and I don't know the answer to it. I don't go around and ask people, but
this program is never going to tell somebody what they have to do. It's providing access to the resource.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
okay, well, thank you anyway.
Thank you, Sheila. Moving on, consideration to approve resolution 26-378 to appoint a library board member.
Two library board members. Right?
No, we had one position and two applied.
Oh,
It's nice we have this problem because on the planning commission, we've got 2 seats and only 1 applied. So you guys have to pick between Carol and Maureen. Maureen has been on the board.
yeah, Maureen's already, yep.
So I think generally we've gone ahead and approved a current member rather than kicking her off.
I haven't had any correspondence that would indicate otherwise, so, yeah. So I want to go ahead and, was that the resolution? What was the board member we want
Maureen Murphy.
to? Okay, Maureen Murphy. Would I say that we would, reappoint her to the board?
Which one?
Maureen Murphy,
Maureen, okay.
Library Board.
I hear a support. Moved by George, supported by Steve to reappoint, I guess, Maureen Murphy to the library board starting April 1, 26, ending March 31st, 2031. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next up, consideration to approve a resolution to adopt veterans.
So this one, there are two positions for the April seat that have expired. And I did advertise for the April and July seat. And we only had the applicants that are already on the board apply. There were no extra.
Can we in one resolution take care of April and July at one time?
Just to point all three of those.
That's all of them back. I so move that we approve resolution 26379 for the Veterans Affairs Board. Veterans Affairs members is the three that are currently there: Ken Davis, Autumn Leonard, and Brandon Scott.
I'll second it.
Moved by Steve, supported by Jan to reappoint all the people on the veterans. Resolution 26-369. All those.
379.
379. Just testing it, Steve. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 10, consideration to approve resolution 26-403 to appoint Bonnie Gustavson to the Planning Commission Board.
This is the one that we do have two seats currently open on the planning commission. I only received one application, so maybe
That's a slam dunk.
2 weeks.
So, no, go ahead.
I make a motion to appoint Bonnie Guska, how can I say? it?
Davison.
Stevenson.
Yeah, Gus Davison, to the board of planning board.
Moved by Jan, supported by Steve to appoint. Jim, excuse me. Appoint Bonnie Gustavson to the Planning Commission. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Well, Bonnie was listening, but I guess she's tired of us.
A while ago. We were boring her.
Consideration to approve resolution 26-407.
No, you missed 12.
We missed 11.
I didn't like that one. Okay, consideration of claims. Are you gonna expound on that, Tim?
I can, but probably,
Oh, you got your minister, your finance guy sitting right here.
Okay. Said claims, it didn't say
Oh, no,
finance.
He was hiding back there.
I was trying to hide. All right, in the last meeting, you guys approved the resolution for the change in how claims will be processed and paid. Well, that's what this is. One of these is checks that have been issued from the last meeting through now. And there'll be some things that will continue on going into the future. I mean, some obligated items that we have to do, payroll tax, could be loan payments, that kind of thing that we have to take care of in between without your approval. You've already approved it in general.
In the budget.
The other ones are invoices that are out there waiting for your go-ahead tonight, your approval, and come tomorrow, then we will initiate either the electronic payment and or the check payment to the vendors. So you got two different components to it. In total, what we're looking at for tonight, you got total claims, $2,727,450. I rounded to the nearest dollar. So
Basically, you're wanting us to approve the invoices dated 3/18/26 to 4/2/26, correct?
Correct.
That's how you want it verbalized. I so move that we approve the invoices for Gratiot County from 3/18/2026 to 4/2/2026.
I'll support that.
Moved by Steve, supported by George to approve paying the claims from 3/18 to 4/2. All those in favor?
Do we have any questions first? I
Okay,
want to make sure all the commissioners have a chance to look at that. If you have any question, now's the time to ask it. I didn't see anything in there, looked normal to me, but that's just when I said aye.
I just think that the way they're presenting them now is so much easier to understand what we're actually paying.
But I want to make sure all commissioners.
I agree. I actually like this, that we're agreeing, or we're paying these. Nobody's waiting a month for it, and we're not just having a bunch of extra that we did.
Well,
So.
You gotta remember, we have not had this situation for quite a while as a financial portion of our county. Everybody takes care of business here. But I just want to make sure all commissioners had a chance to weigh in on that if they need to.
Good catch, George. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Now,
You can go 407. 12.
consideration to approve resolution 26-407, to establish the budget calendar for fiscal year 2027.
That calendar pretty well speaks for itself, but I'll say this, it is a slow start, but that's intentional. This is new for obviously for me.
Yep.
And introducing me to this equation could potentially raise a question or two. So with your approval tonight, the next item that is you see on the agenda is May 4th, where our budget administrators and in fact department heads will begin looking at the fees that we charge. I don't know if you've ever seen a fee schedule before for the county. Ogama had never seen one before. I introduced it to them and they were dumbfounded at, 6 pages of fees, that are charged across.
We haven't seen all of them. I know we've seen tidbits of it, like what do they get for
Well, we haven't seen all, yeah. I mean,
minutes and stuff like that.
clerk's office,
Yeah, we don't-
fees, treasurer's office got fees, registered deeds there's fees everywhere.
Yeah, and you get to set a lot of those fees, not all of them, some of them are set by statute, but will be the opportunity to annually review those fees to make sure that they match whatever it is that the cost is that we're charging for. On May 29th, the departments will submit those fees, and by June 1st, or somewhere around there, you will see that preliminary list and you'll get to finally approve those. On June 1st, that's when the real work begins with the departments, where they'll be asked to begin work on their operating budget for fiscal year 27 for the requests. Now, one thing that I know is new, and this is why it's important to have a slow start, is departments will be asked to directly enter their request into the BSNA system, which I understand has not been past practice. So we will make sure that everybody's comfortable logging in, putting in their budget requests, so that when June 26th rolls around, everybody's done. All right, so all of the requests will be in. Then I go to work to develop the recommended budget from me to you, but you'll see what departments requested and you'll see what I've recommended. There won't be a great deal of variance, but as I'm instructing departments, if you need an additional position, if you need to have a contract to do something, now's the time to request it. It's not a guarantee that you're going to receive it, but you request it and you'll be able to see the arithmetic and what that does to the bottom line and everything else. So while I might make you a recommendation, and I will recommend a balanced budget, that doesn't mean you have to adopt that. That just is simply that recommendation. But you need to see everything. You need to see all the parts going in, because just because I recommend it doesn't mean the department is going to agree. And then you get to have that back and forth through August. That's our time for our budget hearings. If you want to bring a department in to talk about what they've requested, give them the opportunity to explain to you directly what it is that's being requested. You get that opportunity so that by the time your September 15th meeting rolls around, you're ready to approve a budget. Got to have it approved by October 1, so timing works out well, right? So that's what it is in a nutshell, but it gives everybody now that framework. This is what we expect to have done by these dates. Things will move right along. I'm looking forward to frankly doing this. The first time through is always the most fun for me, because we're going to find, where there are some nuanced things that maybe we didn't know about before, and we'll get them worked out.
Are all of these going to be at 4:30, or are you going to change the times?
Your meetings are all your regularly scheduled times. So
Okay.
they're all there. Department heads, of course, we're going to meet once a month anyway at tomorrow, was it second Wednesday at 9 o'clock? And we'll have plenty of opportunity to talk as a group, but also I'll be talking directly with departments as needed throughout the whole process.
This is nice because now we actually know what's going on with our budget.
Yeah.
Before it was kind of this illusion and then something happened and we had it on our, it'll be nice to know what's actually going on and to know that last year, I know Ryan had the department heads become very involved. So I think this is actually a good transit. Was glad that you got to do that last year because I think it will help with this transition. Yeah, there'll be this new component to it, but I think they've already been through it. So it won't be so shocking to them. So therefore I would like to make a motion that we adopt resolution 26407 as presented.
I'll second it.
Moved by Steve, supported by Jan to approve resolution 26-407 to establish a budget calendar for fiscal year 2027. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Moving right on, consideration to approve resolution 26-408 to authorize a land lease for agricultural purpose.
This is part of the ongoing project at the airport. We had 3 different plots of land that we put out in an invitation to bid. Anybody who wanted to bid to work on these parcels was welcome to do so. We got 1 bid in for plot number 2, which consists of 153 total acres, 5 years, 2026 and 2030, for an annual fee of $6,300 per year. When we put the invitations to bid out, we did put a minimum number. That's what this is. So that's what was proposed. And so what the resolution would do will allow me to negotiate that final lease agreement at $6,300 per year. It is a lease that's already formed, so it's just a matter of really plugging in that number. All the rules for the airport will be included in there, so they won't be growing corn or anything like that on these parcels. And with that, this particular section will be finished. We have 2 other plots that we did have out there, with nobody bidding on those right now. It would just be incumbent on the airport to keep the grasses mowed where they need to do that. That would be the end of the story. But next year, of course, we could bid that out again. This one will be good for 5 years, so we'd be down to 2 plots next year.
I so move that we approve resolution 26408 as presented.
More money than farm this year.
It's the same movie, isn't it?
No, it's more.
No,
It was like 35, it's 51 or something, so.
It's up a little bit.
What? It's up a little bit.
Yeah. We're not talking about Park Hill ground. We're not talking about good ground.
You're gonna talk about, let's go over, I think that's
Sand and gravel is what it is.
probably very wet right now with all the rain.
Water table is at where the Pine River's at. So you can imagine where our water table's at out there right now. You don't just go driving out anywhere.
Moved by Steve, supported by
George.
to approve a land lease for lot number 2 for 2026 to 2030, inclusive, for an annual fee of $6,300. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Number 14, last one on my list. Consideration to approve resolution 26-411 to accelerate the medical examiner services transmission.
You recall at the last meeting, we had the representative from the Michigan Medical Examiner here talked about the proposal they'd submitted. And you approved that proposal. Well, since that time, we've heard from virtually everyone concerned, they wanting to accelerate the process of transition. I heard from Genesee County, first time was on March 23rd, asking to do that. The reason being, between now and the time their contract expires on May 20th, they are gonna obviously continue to do work, but they were concerned about what I call the run out. So if we went with, continued with Genesee County, primarily providing services through May 20th, if they had a case on May 15th, they would have to carry that case all the way through to the end, which would take them past that May 20th date. So I understood, obviously, their concern about that timetable. Mid-Michigan said, we will be ready if you want us on on April 8th at 12:01 a.m., which is just a few hours from now, to begin responding as primary, so that we don't have to worry about those runouts because they've already got those cases. Genesee County would continue with the cases that are currently on the books. They'll see those through. They'll be able to wrap that up by May 20th. I know the sheriff's office is very anxious to get the other group in place with their medical examiner investigators. So everybody's on board with this. So it just needs you to approve this resolution, and by 1 a.m., the Michigan Medical Examiner Group will be responding.
I so move to approve.
Resolution 26-411 to accelerate medical examiner service transition. Or
Moved by Tim, supported by Steve to approve resolution 26-411 to accelerate the medical examiner services transition. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay. Any other public comment? Okay,
I was wondering if we could talk about the special meeting that Tim would like to have. Because I have conference next week, and then you guys have conference
The end of the
following week, so if we could try to set that like maybe at the end of this week or the end of next week, so that we could just get it on the books. I just think we could get it posted and get it ready to go, so that you guys have a work session. So I don't know if you guys would be willing to maybe at noon or 1 on, say, the 24th?
I'm moving my daughter from Chicago on the 24th, so.
What about back up a day, the 23rd?
The third, I got nothing.
The third, I believe that's a
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday, the 23rd.
Would Thursday, the 16th work?
You want to do 4:30 or 1?
Or 16th, this next Thursday, not this Thursday's the 9th, next Thursday's the 16th, or are you gonna be going to conference?
We could, no, I'll be-
We'll be back.
16th would be good.
I just got a doctor's appointment in the morning, but afternoon's open.
16th or, yeah.
April 16th at 1? For everybody?
You said you were bringing pizza and noon was better.
It is.
Having the meeting, you'd had pizza, wouldn't you, Bob? At noon.
Okay,
Dang it.
so we're talking April 16th.
April
April
16th.
16th at 1 o'clock.
Yep.
April 16th, 1 o'clock.
Yeah. Doctor's appointment. You can try.
Well, that's next week. Right?
Yes.
Week after,
yeah, week Thursday, week Thursday.
Yeah,
next week.
next week.
okay, Bob.
Okay.
Got that all settled?
Close.
Maybe.
I just had one other comment. And it had to do with your number 7, your resolution 26-405. And I addressed the commission a couple times before on that recycling plan.
Yeah.
And for the lack of input from the townships. And since I last addressed the issue, I was assured that the townships would have some input in that planning.
I think they're at that
And
point yet, though.
we never got any input. I mean, my township has the second most platted properties in the county. And I have a lot of residents that would recycle. But I don't think under the plan I've seen, that's gonna happen. And Sheila stood right here and said, the only way to get them to participate is give them the access. Where's the access?
They don't even have the plan written yet. They haven't started written the plan. That's what we just voted on tonight.
I know,
To get
but
this company to help.
I realize that, but they're still not taking input from the townships.
They won't until they get going on the plan. The plan will include the townships, but they've been, in my opinion, they've been spinning their wheels for a year and a half,
I agree.
all right?
And from what I've
It's
seen,
not all
George,
their fault. It's a part of the state of Michigan's fault. And the state of Michigan is finally getting their act together and saying, now it's time, we're gonna reimburse you for this stuff. They now are gonna hire a company to help them with this plan. As soon as they get this plan going, somewhere in that plan, I'm sure, and Sheila can back me up on this, all townships will be invited for their input, but there's nothing to input right now.
that answers my question.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't bug us, bug shit.
Just don't leave us out.
No, he won't. Would you, go ahead, folks. On here, Blake.
I hear what you're saying.
There's 6 complaints.
You wanna do-
Sheriff's office needed to
This has been, this should have been a long.
You want,
People have had garbage.
said, oh, go talk to the prosecutor. Huh? Have anything to do with, that's a prosecutor.
Yes, okay.
And if it's a motion, we've done that before without it being on Zoom.
Oh, see, she gets.
You're fine for Matt to go ahead and close.
I don't want, but it's big.
This is a lot to read.
Anyone.
Look at this.
Well, where we at?
I'll go home and put it in a note.
That's more than one pot of coffee. Read all that. Distribution of unfinished.
We're supposed to,
Hold this book.
I think we're ready to go into closed session, but somebody's gotta do it.
Well,
But it doesn't need.
Chairman's up here mussing around.
I make a
Doesn't need
motion
to be
to, take a little break.
And then why don't you include in that
We're gonna come back in.
Well, for the purpose of coming back and going into this closed session, you want to
For
talk?
the purpose of coming back and going into a closed session.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
First, strategy and negotiation sessions connected with negotiation and collective bargaining. Either negotiating party request a closed session.
George, you second.
Consideration to enter in a closed session and consult with a county attorney regarding trial or adjournment.
Even that one, that attorney's not on, so we'll have to deal with that in open session. I've got the notes. The only reason it would have been closed session is if the attorney wanted to consult, but now I'll explain to you the really.
Okay, so we can,
We don't need to Zoom,
all right.
Yeah.
so Matt.
Well, Matt can disconnect us, I believe.
We've already set the agenda, but to me, it's, let's take the law problem first and the closed section second, and then we can leave. Instead of having to come back in. That's just procedure. I don't care. All right.
I can get my notes in that one. Anyway. Yeah, it got a lot of balance.